everyone. That is Laura, and this is Kyle, and this is the first episode of 2014. Laura, it's been all year. I haven't seen you all year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I know it's 2014. I'm really happy it's an even year.
Yes, it is. I've always had good luck with even years. Don't ask me why.
As I went into 2014, I recognized, or I kind of realized all of a sudden, oh my God, I've been divorced 10 years this year. 2014 marks my 10th anniversary post-divorce. And I honestly never think about what year. Like, I never think about it when the new year comes. I just don't think about that.
Okay.
But I was extremely acutely aware of it this year. And I almost had this sweeping feeling that it's time to put that into a box, kind of label it, and take that thing, that divorce, and put it away, put it in the attic, and just, it's time to...
You're done with it.
Yeah, I'm done with it. I feel like it's time to really completely let it go. It's a decade. It's done.
Sure.
And it opened up a lot of... it opened up for me an enormous opportunity to explore, what did that decade mean, and what does that mean going forward?
One of the things that we have in common, obviously, is we have that life event in our past.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets very hard to let that go because, for one, at least for me, I don't want to repeat the same mistakes again, right? Yeah. Me and the Queen are engaged, and in a year and a half from now, we'll be taking, our vows. And so I don't want to forget from the standpoint of making the same mistakes. It's always going to be a reminder. But I think that you are right that I also don't want it to be in some way holding me back from moving on with that next phase of my life. Does that make sense?
Total sense. I mean, it really does make total sense for me. It's there's a couple of things I've been thinking a lot about, and over the decade, I was so busy filling that space with the focus on the kids, right? The commitment I made was I'm going to do everything I can, to keep things as okay for me as possible so that they'll be okay for the kids. So I'm going to make everything look as normal as possible. I'm going to work really hard so that I am financially self-sufficient, so that I can keep them in the same, kind of quality of life that their father does, that I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to be whole, all the things that I do believe are necessary for them to move on as well as they possibly can. I was so busy filling that and running around and being a mom that this 10th anniversary for me also comes with my oldest leaving for college. He left in August, and all of a sudden this huge space of I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that anymore. They're okay. They're good. And yes, I'm still a mom, and I'm sure there's a million unforeseen, unexpected things that I can look forward to with them. But I did it. I did it. And I have incredible gratitude for focusing on all the things that you and I always talk about, so that those years were good and that I could get to where I am. But on the other hand, now there's this big gaping, holy shit, I'm just starting. And in some ways, now is when I'm starting all over again.
You had a decade-long pause.
Yeah.
In some ways. Now, I don't want to go, I hope you're not one of those that you put your entire life on hold.
No.
But you certainly made sacrifices, and I think that that's something that's regardless of your marital status. I think if you're a parent, that just comes with the territory. That is part of it. And it's something that we gladly do, though we might act begrudgingly sometimes. It's something that we gladly do. But I can understand from your perspective, as you know, you have one child that's moving on into college, because I subscribe to this notion. When my kids go to college, the whole thing changes for me. Mm-hmm. Now, that may sound a little bit odd for some people, but I can still vividly remember my first year of college. I can remember a lot about it. My second year of college is a different story. My first, however, I remember. And I remember feeling like an adult. I remember coming home and wanting to be treated differently than I did when I left for college. And I'm looking forward to those times in my own life, because you're right. I think that, at least in my mind, when my son goes to college, that opens up an entirely different, not chapter, an entirely different book as far as I'm concerned. Because there's certain things that I now feel that I have, not a right, but I have the bandwidth to do that I couldn't do before. I think that's exciting. I'm not necessarily scared about it. Are you freaking out?
Well, no. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm freaking out, and I feel the excitement. But I'll tell you, honestly, I feel more vulnerable and a little bit more scared than I thought that I would.
And why is that?
And that's kind of that's the journey that I'm on right now. And I think I love that you say it was like a 10-year pause. It was a pause from certain things. It wasn't pause from living, because I do believe, and I did a lot in that time, even while sacrificing. I took a lot of steps to become happy, healthy, and whole, and put myself in the position where now I have self-sufficiency. I am in a relationship that I like, that is an intentional and good relationship. So I'm ready to take that next step. But I'll tell you something. The prospect of now, without my kids and without knowing that I am going to be procreating, because let us be very clear here, I will not be, without those things, knowing that those things are there, it is a whole new ballgame.
I'm going to get Sigmund Freud on you for a minute.
Ooh, okay.
So it sounds to me like, and I'm not being critical when I say this, because I have complete respect for you. It sounds to me like you're getting to the point where you're hanging up the mom hat. You're putting it on a wall. And you've been used to wearing that hat for 18 years. Or however long it's been, right? 18, whatever.
Yeah.
And now, what hat are you going to put on next? So I think that if you're scared or you feel apprehensive, it's really more the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
You're trading, it's like you've been working at, this job for the last 18 years, and now the boss has come in and said, Laura, you're going to be doing this now. And you're like, what do I do?
It is like that. And I think that this goes for those of us who are divorced, and also for those, who aren't, it holds true. Like, this is like a whole new thing. Like, it's not like I've been married to someone and we raised our kids and we can look longingly in each other's eyes and go, oh my God, dear, we did such a good job with the children and, blah, blah, blah. This is like, wow, this is really a little bit detached. I kind of feel like when I graduated college and was going someplace to live and work for the very first time and didn't know it was going to be that big. And it does feel that big. And what I found so interesting was the anniversary of my divorce kind of opening that door to all this stuff. It was maybe it's the timing of the kids and the anniversary, my timing and the moon, the stars, and whatever aligned. But for me, it definitely had me thinking about this transition. We talk about divorce and we talk about the right after and the co-parenting and all the things that we've been through, but there is more down the road that is part of the longer term transition, from divorce
to the rest of your life.
Yeah, it is really, really the rest of your life.
I want to put those things in a box. I don't want to put any of that in a box because as soon as you put it in a box in the attic, you normally forget it, right? You forget that it's there. And it goes back to what I said earlier, right? I don't want to find myself in the same mistake. So I want to remember, because I'm sure you'll agree with me as it relates to your prior marriage, and we'll talk in the divorce. I will argue that 10 years, Laura, you learned more about yourself in that decade than the previous 3.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct.
So maybe you don't put it away forever. Maybe you put it in the corner somewhere, and maybe, put a doily on the top of it and put your glass of
candle,
your Chardonnay, but you don't put it away for good, because those are the lessons that set you on a completely different course in your life. And if you put them away, you might forget.
But the truth of the matter is, the timing is, it feels very symbolic that while it's still, all of this is part of my fabric, it is also a different book, not just a chapter. It is kind of cool.
Decades always have special symbolism, right?
Yeah.
Your child turns 10 years old and it's a big deal, and a 10-year marriage is a big deal, and so
10-year divorce is, I guess, apparently also a big deal.
I'm only at 9, so I don't know. I don't think I'll celebrate it one way or the other. To me, it'll just be simply another day, but clearly you kind of hit the apex, right, of the mother loads, if you will, the 10-year divorce and your kids going to college, and let's be frank, all right, let's just call it what it is. I mean,
stop.
You begin to,
are you going there?
You begin to feel like, I'm not 26 anymore. I'm actually getting a little bit older, right? I mean, and let's be frank. I mean, if we just be completely honest for a moment, right? When you begin to feel your age, sentimentality takes on a whole different meaning. Things begin to be a lot more poignant than they might have been before, right? All of a sudden, the 10-year divorce and your kids going to college is like a really, really big deal. Yeah. It's like a turning point.
You know what that turning point did this new year for me is it got me hardcore thinking about exactly what I want next to look like. Like, really.
Sure.
In a way that I really hadn't. I think about it all the time. I mean, we talk about it. We talk about all kinds of things, but it's like, it's very different. It really was like,
because you're there, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole deal of, it's like, the final exam in college, and you're 3 weeks away and you don't think it's a big deal. Oh, I got 3 weeks, I'm fine, I got no problem. And then you turn around and it's like the night before, and then you're like crapping in your pants because, now what, right?
Right.
I remember perfectly my last year of college, right? It's like April, I'm getting ready to complete my final exams, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't have a job yet, and but I got 45 days. And I got 40 days. And then I got 30 days. Even 15 days felt like an eternity. And then I walked the line, and that's when shit got serious. It's like, dude, you're not in Kansas anymore. You better figure it out. I think you're going through some of the same things.
Absolutely. And it just, and it was really interesting because we hadn't spoken, and I was like, maybe this is what they call that, like, midlife crisis thing.
Maybe a midlife crisis, Laura, if you maybe became a stripper, or you went out and got like $100,000 in plastic surgery, or did something like that. That would be a midlife crisis. This is simply just a phase of life.
Oh, this is just what's called life, I guess.
It's only a midlife crisis in the way that you handle it.
Right.
Right. We all guys turn 50. Not all guys go out and buy Ferraris and get 19-year-old girlfriends.
That's true. Yes, okay. There is a difference.
So it's all about how you handle it. So, what are you going to leave us with as you prepare for this next phase? As you look down the path of your future, what is it going to look like for you? And what would you tell other people who are in the same situation?
You know what? That even though you will have out there in the world, and I have, and we're all inevitably going to have a period of time, whenever that is, that looks like this, is, that it is really uncomfortable, and it's uncertain, and it's
Unsettling.
It's unsettling, and it feels there's a space. I don't want to say hole. I hate when people say that, gaping hole in my heart. No, that's not. It's a space. It's a space that was filled with some other stuff, and now it needs to kind of be an open space, and I'm trying to give it the time that, to be patient, which is not my greatest virtue, to be patient and see what's going to fill that space, when ordinarily I think I would work much harder to push and fill it and grab shit to fill it up with. And so I'm trying to, my word of wisdom is, let's see if we can all just sit with the space and see what kind of happens with it, and not, the one thing I'll say is with the kids, because your kids are a little younger than mine, it's so easy when they're little to fill your everything with that. It's just by the very nature of what it's like.
Marriages fail for that very reason.
Exactly. So there's, as space gets created, it's a great opportunity to really take time to figure out what you want to fill it with. And that's kind of where I'm at, which is cool.
Take your temperature.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a piece of advice.
Oh, good.
Several years ago, I've been in, leadership positions for a long time. And several years ago, I got a piece of wisdom from a senior leader for a company that I was working with, and I'll never forget it, and it was spot on. When you feel the most uncomfortable, the most unsettled, the most anxious, the most, as if you're being pulled in different directions, mm-hmm. That's when you're growing.
Oh, that's so good. It's true. It is absolutely true.
Well, Laura, I look forward to watching as you go on your journey down the path of the yellow brick whatever. And until next time, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.